Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Strength Squad podcast. I'm your co-host.
You saying your name? Or no?
Steve Cardy.
I'm Nick Scopoletti, and this is a early morning edition of the Strength Squad podcast.
This was recorded 5 months ago. We're here today talking about accessory work. So the top 5 things you need to know about accessory work and how to incorporate it into your training. So not just the big lifts, right? Not just the squat, bench, deadlift, Olympic lifts, not just the main stuff, right? The meat and potatoes. Or no, if we're talking about meat and potatoes, this is the potatoes that we're talking about today.
Right.
So we're talking potatoes today. Who knew?
Sweet potatoes.
Who knew?
Locally sourced.
Before we start here, announcements per usual. Make sure you guys go to all of our social media.
Mm-hmm.
Go follow us on Facebook. Like us on Instagram. Wait, no, I got to say that in the right order. Go check out our Facebook page. Go to our Twitter. Subscribe to us on Twitter, and then go follow us on Instagram, and then follow us to our cars. We got fans out there who like that, so I can't abandon it. People stop me on the street and tell me that joke.
Yeah,
No,
sure.
no, they don't.
I'm sure.
Also, make sure you go to iTunes, Stitcher, or leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us out. And we also like to hear your feedback, so go do that. And then same with YouTube. Head over to our YouTube channel. Click that subscribe button. That way you get all of our Strength Squad content to your feed every single day, so you don't miss anything.
Every day.
Other announcements. CrossFit Open's coming up soon, so all you CrossFitters out there getting ready for the Open. It's coming up soon. There's already been like a couple weird like standard changes. So there was actually an 18.0 release that we did last week. And there was like a standard change with snatches, dumbbell snatches, and there was a standard change with burpees. So if you guys missed that, the standard change with dumbbell snatches was you can no longer at the top of your dumbbell snatch, you can't change hands at the top. You have to change below your chin. And then with burpees, you can no longer step down and step up. You have to fully jump down, fully jump up. If you want to do RX. These are all for RX. If you're doing scale, it doesn't fucking matter. You do whatever you need to do. Whatever you got to do to scale it down, that's okay. But RX, try and do that RX, then
Rex.
don't try to get too fancy pants. I think it's about time, man. Send some news. Send those DMs, send some news.
Finally.
Whip out our news and send them. This week's article, guys, is a little different. It's actually an article about the ketogenic diet and some studies that have been done showing how the ketogenic diet has actually been helping with seizures and those with epilepsy.
Yeah, for years, man.
Yeah, so go check that out. Link will be in the show notes, and we'll also post that to our social media this week. It's interesting stuff, like we're not like advocates of like a certain way to eat, right? We're not like you should be this, you should be that. We're open to everything, but it just seems that like a higher fat, lower carb way to eat is really good, especially for
brain health.
Yeah, like brain health. If you have like gastrointestinal issues. I was listening to one of Rob Wolf's podcasts last week.
Yep.
And just, the amount of people who are just like, who have like gastrointestinal issues, like autoimmune stuff, are just like healed magically by, going this paleo route or that high fat route. And now this stuff with like seizures that they're, all these new figures with seizures coming out. So listen, we're not like advocates necessarily, but like it just seems to be that all the research that's coming out, including the research in this article, like if you got some sort of issue, like autoimmune type deal, low carb, high fat seems to be the way to go. So
Yeah, John Welborn spoke about that a lot.
try it out.
About like brain damage. Obviously, if you don't know who John Welborn is, he's the guy who started Power Athlete, played in the NFL for 10 years as a lineman. And he has, he's had his brain, he's has pretty minimal damage, and he attributes it to never drinking the Gatorade, staying away from sugar, and doing a low carb diet. So, and he's smashing heads for a decade in the NFL. So I think it's interesting.
And not for nothing, I've had personal experience with this too. Actually, this past week, the past couple months, I started adding more and more dairy to my diet. I don't really have a problem with dairy, but I just think chronic consumption of dairy started to bother me. Like, I was just looking to get some more calories in, get some more, protein in, get some more good fats in. So I was like, I'm just going to start adding more dairy. And I went from not really, the only dairy I was having was a little bit of butter on each of my meals, and that was it. And that never bothered me. I went from that to I'm going to add milk, and I'm going to put cheese in my eggs, and I'm going to have Greek yogurt with my fruit.
How'd you feel?
And so after a month of doing that, I thought I was having heart issues, but it was really just, your stomach and pancreas is right here.
Yeah.
It was just these inflammatory problems I was having that was putting pressure on my heart, and I was having all sorts of bloating issues and gas issues. Not just I wasn't shitting myself, but constantly needing to burp and just feeling everything coming up all the time and feeling bloated. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Lactose is the most reported allergen for most people.
Dude, took it out, feel great.
Yeah, and it's not and you don't have a problem with dairy like I do. I've seen you hammer a fucking a milkshake the size of my head, and you're okay. But that's once every, not every day.
Yeah, right. I do better when it's once in a while. But point being of this whole kind of rant I'm going on is, you never know what could be triggering these things. You know what I mean? It's a wide spectrum from, hey, I just kind of have some indigestion from dairy to, I have epileptic seizures, and going to this this elimination type diet where you're cutting out a lot of things like dairy and carbs and things like that and grains, and seeing what happens, right? So go check out that article. It's an awesome article.
You're an awesome article.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into our 5 things you should know. Top 5 things you should know about accessory work. Be right back. Top 5. Want more of the Strength Squad? You can check out all of our social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Also, check us out on YouTube, where you can watch all of your favorite Strength Squad videos. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on iTunes and Stitcher.
Stitcher? I just met her. All right, guys, we're here talking about the 5 things that you need to know about accessory work. Okay?
Right.
So first things first, accessories. What do we talk about when we're talking about accessories? So what exactly are accessories?
They are the lifts they're the lifts you're going to do after your big main lift. So when we say big main lifts, we mean bench, squat, deadlift, snatch, clean, stuff like that, and all variations of those big lifts.
Or also too, yes, definitely, but also in addition to that, if you're not a traditional hey, I go and bench and squat, if your training is something else, maybe a CrossFitter, I could speak to this because that's what I do.
You do CrossFit?
In addition to your main workout, right? So usually traditionally CrossFit, it's you have your main workout and your main competition stuff. Accessory would be the stuff you do around that, right? The stuff that's getting all your meat better.
Oh.
We mentioned before, this is the meat and potatoes.
Right.
This is the potatoes part, right? Your meat, that's your meat, right? That's your big lifts. That's your main training.
Got to beat it up.
Got to beat your meat. Keep it safe. So this is the potatoes we're talking about, right?
Right.
So quick analogy for you there, guys. So that's your accessories, right? This is the stuff we're doing in addition to our main training in order to improve our main training, or just improve kind of our weaknesses in training as well. So that's kind of an overview of what your accessories are, right? Accessories. That's a different episode. All right, so number 1, varying between doing hip dominant stuff and knee dominant stuff, right? So say your main lift that day is deadlift, right? So we'll make it simple. Main lift of the day is deadlift. So by the time you get to your accessories, you're doing some sort of lunge. So can you kind of talk about that a little more?
Yeah. So, this is based off of basically doing stuff in there's basic human movements we do. We could push, we could pull, we could hinge, and we could squat. So the squat would be knee dominant, hinge would be hip dominant, and then pushing, pulling, you have vertical and horizontal, right? So, an example of this would be, say it's your deadlift day. So deadlifts are usually, if they're from the floor, rack pulls, whatever, they are posterior chain, not a lot of knee bending there, a little bit, but it's really not like a squat, right? It's more of a hip dominant movement. So you covered your hip dominant main lift, so maybe your next lift will be something like a front squat or a split squat, something knee dominant. That's kind of the way to think about it. You would just want to make sure you're not, it's nothing wrong. I guess depends on you and how you're built and your program, but just make sure you're hitting all those movements, pushes, your pulls, vertical and horizontal. And, and another example would be squatting. Squat day, strictly pretty knee dominant, right? That is a knee dominant movement. So after that, you want to do something like, RDLs or single leg deadlifts or kettlebell swing, something for the posterior chain. And then, of course, you could round out your training with whatever else you'd like. But it's just making sure you have balance in your body. Same thing with like a bench day. If you're starting with a heavy bench day, then maybe your next lift is going to be a pull to support that. So a heavy dumbbell row or heavy barbell row. So that's kind of what we mean when we talk about that.
Yeah. And just like think of it simply too, just think push pull, right? That's been kind of like I don't want to say overused, but that's been like a popular, push pull. But that's just kind of what our body does, right? I mean, it pushes and it pulls. So make it as simple as you can, right? Yeah. You're doing bench, do pull-ups in your accessory, right? You're doing a horizontal push with bench, do a vertical pull with pull-ups. If you're squatting that day, make your accessories hip dominant, like you said, more of like a hinge, because a hinge is considered quote unquote a pull, right? And a squat would be considered a quote unquote push. So just make it simple for yourself, right? Hey, I did a push, lower body push in my main lifts, so I'm going to do a lower body pull in my accessories. So just think about it simply: push, pull, hip versus knee dominant, things like that, right?
Right.
Number 2, different planes. All right, this is a big one, right? We've talked about different planes before, but this is something we want to harp with accessories. Like, make sure you're getting. My rule of thumb is at least one accessory movement you're doing per day is in a different plane, right? I'm not
airplane.
I'm not necessarily a stickler for which plane. It could be transverse plane, frontal plane, either one. Just try to get in those planes, right? So quick review. Sagittal plane, that's pretty much where everything is, right? That's where you're forward and back. That's where you're deadlifting. That's where you're squatting. That's where you're bench pressing. That's where you're pressing overhead. That's where you're cleaning. I mean, this is like you're just facing forward and doing a movement, right? That's like the easiest way I feel like I could put it. Taking it into different planes, if we're talking about the frontal plane, you're doing some lateral stuff, right? So some side lunges, lateral lunges, where instead of stepping forward in your lunge, you're stepping to the sides. Transverse plane, rotational movements. Think rotational movements, right? So you're doing like a pull-off press, which is like an anti-rotation movement, or you could do like a turn into a lunge, rotational deadlifts, right? We're not going to get too much into specific exercise, but that's just the kind of example there. And I mean, the reason this is important, guys, I would say if you are an athlete, an athlete, or B, someone who is just kind of like general strength training person, get in different planes, right? I would say if you're more like, okay, I'm training for my sport, which is like powerlifting or Olympic lifting, maybe not as important, getting these different, for your sport, it's not as important. Getting in these different planes is just important for, your movement and things like that. So I would say if you're an athlete, you definitely want to be training in different planes, because guess what? You play a sport, there's not many sports where you're not in every single plane of your body, right? Where you're rotating, where you're going moving laterally, you know what I mean? So if you're an athlete, definitely get into different planes. And then if you're just kind of general strength training person, I'd recommend getting into different planes as well. So my rule of thumb is every day, at least one movement that's in a different plane in your accessories. Anything to add with that?
No, I think you nailed it.
Word.
That's perfect.
Number 3, use supersets or groups of movement.
Yes.
right? Let's talk about that one a little bit.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do. It also, it saves on time. It gives kind of so if you don't know what a superset is or pairing things, it's just putting things back to back. So example, bench day, did my bench day, and now I'm going to do incline dumbbell presses for more reps, obviously like 12 reps, and then dumbbell rows, superset those two, a push-pull like that. The benefit of supersets, Arnold was a huge fan of these for when he was trying to get leaner for competitions. He's pretty famous for his chest and back movements, which now bodybuilders do separately, but he was one of the guys that paired them, and he never understood, because one muscle supports the other. And he had specific pairings, and he said certain things would help, like doing a lat pull down and then going to bench, like having a nice pump in your lats and then you going to bench has a pretty big benefit. Since the lats stabilize the shoulder. But I like supersets for time purposes. If you don't want to be there forever, dragging out stuff, or even a little bit of a conditioning circuit. So example would be maybe you do a day where, say it's a squat day or a squat and a bench day. And then after you have some accessories and there's 4 or 5 things on your list. And instead of taking time and doing them all separately and taking your rest in between and then hitting them again and pair them up and almost do them, I would say similar to like a circuit, like almost like a CrossFit WOD if you want to, go there with that. So, hitting one pretty hard and then taking about 30, 60 seconds and hit the next one. So you could say dumbbell bench, pull-ups, RDLs, split squats. So you cover everything, push, pull, hip dominant, knee dominant. And I'm just going to do that in a circuit fashion, do 4 or 5 rounds. It's good to get a metabolic effect too, as opposed to just the accessories. I think it's a good way, take your time with the rest, but it's a good way to get in and out a little bit quicker if you are time constrained for training, because I feel like not a lot of us have all day to train. But yeah, supersets and groups are some of my favorite things when you just want to just hammer stuff and get out, because doing just a incline dumbbell bench by itself kind of gets a little.
It's more fun too. Yeah, I mean,
there's
the time thing, fun. Right? If let's be honest, we're not trying to. I feel like for the most part, people aren't just trying to sit in the gym or wherever they train forever.
Time their rest periods.
Yeah, it's it's yes, there's the time thing too, but I think it's more fun. Going from one movement to the next is kind of a little more stimulating for your brain too.
Yeah, absolutely. It changes you.
So absolutely, that's a good one. Using supersets, using groups of movements, circuits, whatever you want to call it. Number 4, using bodyweight training in your accessories here. Okay, so for the most part, bodyweight movements aren't going to be part of your meet. That's not going to be part of your main, for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there's exceptions, but today we're just kind of speaking in generalities. So throwing that in your accessory work is pretty important, right? Because with body weight, not only are we, we're working on obviously body awareness, body control, which is going to translate into our bigger lifts, but proprioception as well, right? So using body weight movements, getting the barbell out of your hands, getting the dumbbells out of your hands, and just using your body weight is going to help with building that proprioceptive feedback in your body, right?
Yeah.
So proprioception essentially being your body's spatial awareness, essentially.
We've talked about that a lot, on the podcast, just talking about how, we wish we did gymnasts, we did gymnastics as kids, that would have gave us such a better base for what we're doing now.
There's still time.
Yeah, there's still time. But it just helps. I've even taken the time in certain aspects to I've done this personally. Stopped heavy benching or heavy whatever and focused on simple stuff for pull-ups, instead of doing them weighted or doing them whatever, just hanging from the bar and trying to drive my shoulder blades down into my back pockets, almost try to get them to touch. Stuff like that you don't really think about. You never think about, oh, my shoulder blades down and back, are they touching together? And that's something you feel really on a regular basis. Or even taking time in the push-up and learning how to screw your hands into the floor and really get as low as you can and take your time with your body weight as opposed to just loading it up. Yeah, I think this is I've been messing around with push-ups lately, just trying to hit 50 to 100, break it up however. it's been a game changer. It's been a pretty interesting. I could actually it helps with shoulder function and all that stuff. Even just like lunges for time, if we're talking lower body stuff.
Yeah. I would say like the technique part, getting the technique to nail down is definitely the most important part of body weight movements.
Right.
But there are also movements where you can kind of go balls out. Like you could go super intense, you can go super hardcore with like minimal risk, because you don't have a barbell in your hand, you don't have a kettlebell, you don't have like an external weight source. It's just your body weight. So yes, definitely get the technique. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying go as hard as you can with shitty technique. Technique's always the perfect, always the most important thing. But it's something that will allow you to, if you want to, for your accessories, I'm going to go max effort push-ups or max effort pull-ups. Like you could do that. Right?
Yeah, I like lunges for distance or time. Like
right.
There you go. Something real simple.
And think about it like this. If you can start to develop mastering these positions with just your body weight and using your own body weight, think about how that's going to translate to your strength under the bar with a barbell in your hands.
Absolutely.
Right? So use body weight movements, get that stuff in there. Technique first, but then also a good way to use body weight movements is burnout sets, to max effort, go until failure, right? Very minimal risk there as far as like injury and things like that. I have one more thing I was going to say about body weight. Shit. Fuck, I forget. Maybe it'll come back to me.
I'll come back to you.
Fuck. All right. Whatever. Moving on. Last one here, guys. Number 5. It's okay to use isolation movements.
Isolate. Don't
man.
ISA early.
So what are isolate movements? What are isolation movements?
Talk about isolation movements. Like I'm talking like almost. We're talking little stuff. We're talking like bicep curls, tricep extensions, shoulder raises, rear delt raises, side raise, things like that. Hand, stuff like
old
that.
School bodybuilding, if you will.
Pretty much. like small little. And again, this isn't for if you are a bodybuilder, then this is most of your workout. But we're talking about, just as to add stuff in. We're speaking to more like just the strength community, like people. We get caught in the planes, and that's fine. But I think if you want a bigger bench, then you're going to need some, I'm talking like lat pull downs. Like you're going to need some big lats, some big rear delts, and strong triceps to bench press a lot. So nothing wrong with a little isolation, and just do them for, doesn't have to be your whole workout. Save them for the end and just do again, you could use all these principles. You could do a superset of all of them and just rip them out and say, I'm going to hit 50 reps. I'll break it up however.
Boom.
Simple stuff. Don't overthink it. Don't think I have to do eccentrics and what grip should I use, what this, because I do this. That's why I'm warning people. I think too much. So, yeah, got to love the isolation movements. Nothing wrong with a little bicep curl, a little arm pump, some chest flies here and there. And that's one thing we saw, I think, last year with the CrossFit regionals, and there's like 25
everyone tearing their pecs and shit.
Tears.
Oh, no. The studio's leaking, dude.
Dude, save the shit.
Shit. Keep going. Keep it rolling.
So that's
all right, we're gonna wrap this thing up real quick. So those are our 5 right now. We got a leak coming through the ceiling. I
gotta call my landlord. I'll see you, motherfuckers.
Thanks. So those are our top 5 guys. We will be right back. When we come back, we're gonna wrap it up. Take care.
Bye.
Dude. Want more of the Strength Squad? You can check out all of our social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Also, check us out on YouTube, where you can watch all of your favorite Strength Squad videos. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on iTunes and Stitcher.
Stitcher? I just met her. All right, so some segments before we sign off here. All right, Super Bowl week, guys. Super Bowl's coming up this Sunday. We know what you're thinking. What should I cook, right? What should I cook to be healthy for the Super Bowl? Everyone loves Super Bowl snacks. Right. You're probably having a Super Bowl party. Your grandparents and your cousins and maybe a couple of your friends are probably coming over, and that's probably it. And you're wondering, what do I cook for everyone? And as we all know, what's in now is Tide Pods. Tide Pods are in right now, guys. So if you're not cooking with Tide Pods, you're fucking missing something.
Missing a lot of nutrients.
But it's okay. We're here. We're here to help you out. Right. So we're going to go over our top 3 Tide Pod Super Bowl snack recipes and how to cook them with Uncle and Aunt Jemima. All right, so
which one am I?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So my top 3 Tide Pod recipes. Number 1 is Tide Pod wings. All right. So I'm a wings guy, right? So you go to the store, get your favorite chicken, whether it be the wings or the drumstick or a combo of both. I personally like the wings because I like holding the 2 ends and shoving it in my mouth and then ripping it out and cleanly taking all the meat off at once.
Yeah, you do.
And then what you're going to do is you're going to go into the detergent aisle. You're going to go all your favorite sauces, okay? You're going to get Spring Morning. And you're going to get Evening. And you're going to get your Evening Smell sauce as well. Right? So we're going to get our 2 sauces. When you get home, you bust out a big bowl, put your chicken wings in it. You're just going to smush the Tide Pods over the wings, really get your hands in there. Mush them all together, put them in the oven for about 3 to 4 hours. When you take them out, they're ready to serve.
Oh, fuck.
Quick and easy recipe, right? My second Tide Pod recipe is Tide Pod chili. So this is great. You could actually use, so we're going to use some ground beef, ground turkey if you're trying to use a little more leaner meat.
Yeah, that's definitely important.
But you could also, we could use the leftover Tide Pod sauce we use from the wings, or we could just use actual chunks of Tide Pod. So if you love that nice crunch from the detergent with the mix of that liquidy ooze in your mouth from like eating a full Tide Pod, this recipe is for you, okay? Because you could put full Tide Pods in as well as the sauce, okay? And this one's simple. Just ground beef, turkey in a crock pot, right? Yeah. Sprinkle some detergent in there. Get your favorite Tide Pods, right? The lemon lime Tide Pods are my favorite for this one. So you just chuck those bad boys in there and you got yourself some Tide Pod chili.
I hate how in-depth you are.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
And then my last one, this one's actually not so much a recipe, but a new product out there that I think you should pick up. This is every hit at every party. We know this, Super Bowl. Tide Pod flavored Doritos, right? So you've heard of Cool Ranch, nacho cheese. Those are great, but my favorite is that freshly cleaned spring morning scent flavored Doritos, right? And so that's a staple. That's a staple snack
right.
at my party, at least. So those are my top 3. How about you?
My top 3 Tide Pod recipes would have to be number 1, Tide Pod nachos. Real simple.
I'm getting hungry.
Oh man, so simple. You just go, you get some nachos, cheese, jalapenos, beef, and then you don't even need the Tide Pods. We'll just go straight up Mountain Blast scent Tide detergent, pour it all over that bad boy.
Dump it on. Be generous.
That's it.
Be generous.
So that's that. Then on to Tide Pod 7-layer dip. So what I like to do is take all the scents of Tide and just kind of layer them. What you want to do is, you'll take, it's 7 layers. So the first layer will be like, some sort of beans, right? Then you'll have Tide Pods. Then you'll be sour cream. Then more Tide Pods underneath it. Then you'll have guacamole, Tide Pods underneath it, and then you'll have some salsa maybe in there too.
Are we going same flavor on each layer, or
traditional 7-layer? We're gonna stick with the same flavor of Tide Pod on each layer, and then you could even do use the Tide Pods, extra Tide Pods as dip, as chips to dip it in.
Chips and dips.
Yeah, that's And then my last but definitely not least, Tide Pod guacamole. So what you do is when you cut the avocado open, you have the little hole in there where the pit is. Take the pit out, put a Tide Pod in there, take your hammer, smash it. There's guacamole.
And that's it.
You're welcome.
Nice. Now, if you don't mind me saying, I would go away from the laundry detergent aisle and go to the dish soap aisle and get the green Tide Pods for that one. Because you're going to want that nice green look with your guacamole. So
yeah, you don't want that blue fucking
no, fuck that. And listen, man, if it's not a Tide Pod, store brand is okay. I think there's some consistency and flavor missing there. I think they missed some stuff with the store brand. But those are our top 3 Tide Pod recipes for your Super Bowl snacks, guys. Good luck. Make some of these recipes. Let us know how you felt about them, how they tasted, and we'd love to get your feedback.
Please don't actually fucking
don't actually do any of that, please. All right, guys, that's our show this week. As always, thank you so much for joining. Thanks for watching, listening, however you consume our dumbasses. Thank you so much for doing that. So yeah, shout out to all you guys who keep this show going. So
and our sponsors, Tide.
Yeah, Tide Pods are sponsors. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you next week. Deuces.
Bye.
Want more of the Strength Squad? You can check out all of our social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Also, check us out on YouTube, where you can watch all of your favorite Strength Squad videos. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on iTunes and Stitcher.
Stitcher, I just met her.